Did one witness blow up the prosecution's entire case today? It was a wild day in court. It is Tuesday, June 3rd, and we just wrapped up day 26 in Karen Reed's second trial. So first things first, Dr. Russell was back on the stand again this morning on cross. Now, if you remember, she's a witness for the defense, who is an emergency medicine doctor and forensic pathologist with over 30 years experience. Right off the bat, Brennan began asking her if she had had conversations with the defense team the night before. She said only that Alessi advised her to ask for transcripts when Brennan was questioning her. Now, here's the issue. There's a sequestration order, which means that there's no talking about the case. And normally this would be a bad thing. But here's the thing with this. Yesterday, Brennan was saying things, and he was saying things that were supposedly on the transcript, and they weren't. So she was just kind of trusting that what he's saying is truthful and it's actually on the transcript, and it wasn't. So I'm not surprised that Alessi told her to ask for the transcripts to check. And it's probably something I would have done too if I was the attorney in the case. So yes, there's a sequestration order, but she did say they did not talk about the case at all, that it was just he recommended she asked for transcripts. Now, soon after this, Brennan asked her a question. Y'all, I was so offended. I was so upset. I was so frustrated. Watch what happened.
Do you have any memory issues?
No.
May I approach?
Seeing Dr. Russell's face and her shock in that moment at his offensive comment, it made that moment so much worse. So much worse. And everybody in our live chat was really frustrated over this. Now, after that, Brennan spent a lot of time going over basically the same question. He kept saying that Dr. Russell changed her testimony, or asking her if she changed her testimony on different things, from whether it was a wound caused by a dog bite, from scratches, or if it was canine teeth. She repeatedly explained that she never changed her testimony. She did hone in on it, became more sure that the wounds were caused by dog teeth. In her original testimony, the very first time she ever came and talked to anybody was at a voir dire before the last trial. And she gave the testimony that she was sure that these were from a dog. She went along his arm and didn't give specific information about what she thought that each one was from. Was it from the teeth or was it from the claws? But she was questioned on it. She was pushed on it. And she said she did what any good doctor would do and spent some more time investigating, looking into it, researching it, spent some more time and decided what she thought each one was. So she never changed her opinion. She just got much more specific with it after spending more time looking into it. And she said that's what any good doctor would do. Now, when we move on from that, then Brennan brought up branches in the area where John O'Keefe's body was found when he was talking about the scratches on his arm. And we were like, wait, what? Branches? What are you? And it was kind of like, we had a moment where we were like, wait, is this like an Uno flip reverse? And now you're changing that it's not taillight, it's branches. It was really weird. But then, big moment in court, he starts asking about dog DNA on John O'Keefe's arm and on the clothing. At this point, Alessi objects and asks to be seen at sidebar. Now, according to the people in the courtroom, he was very clearly upset and animated. So Bev excuses the jurors for their morning recess and hears Alessi on an issue when he moves for this motion.
The defense moves strongly, vigorously for a mistrial with prejudice. A mistrial with prejudice.
So here's what happened. Brennan started asking Dr. Russell about this dog DNA being found on John O'Keefe's sweatshirt and his wounds, which he can't ask about because the prosecution has already rested their case. He can't ask about things that he didn't introduce into evidence. If he hasn't introduced it as evidence for the jury to consider, he can't talk about it. It's confusing for the jurors too, because they're like, wait, what? What dog DNA? We haven't heard about that. And Alessi says the only remedy for this situation is for Bev to declare a mistrial with prejudice, which means that the case would basically just go away and they can't try it again. Now, this was a very, very dramatic moment. If you want to watch Alessi's full argument, and he is mad, he is passionate about this. If you want to watch the full thing, it starts around an hour and 56 minutes into the live stream. And it's worth a watch because I'm telling you, this is like dramatic. Our jaws were on the floor. Now, when the morning recess is over, Bev denies the motion for mistrial and says that Brennan can continue his line of questioning regarding the DNA. That was shocking. And I'll explain why. She's letting this attorney who didn't introduce this as evidence question a witness about it without the jury being able to actually hear anything about the witness. And it kind of is misleading because the normal thing that I would think a judge would do in this situation, I knew she wouldn't grant the mistrial, but I assumed she would strike the comment and discontinue that line of questioning, but she didn't. She let it go on. That's crazy to me. So the questioning continues, and when everything wraps up, Brennan asks Dr. Russell the final question. Now, reporter Jessica Machado is in the courtroom, and she's giving some inside scoop and jury reactions. She posted that the very last question that Brennan asked Dr. Russell, right after he asked it, he literally walked away from the podium and went and sat down in his seat, which is like maybe 5 feet in front of the witness stand. He asked her a question, and as she's answering it, completely just disregarded her answer, as if nothing that she said mattered enough for him to even stand at the podium like a professional while she finished her answer. Let me know what y'all think about that in comments. I'll tell you what I think. But let me know what y'all think. Now, the next witness called was Sergeant Nicholas Baros of the Dighton Police Department. Here's what's interesting about Baros. He has no ties or connection to Canton PD or anyone in this case. So it's interesting to hear from a law enforcement agent who truly has no dog in the fight. He didn't go to middle school dances and, babysit this one's cousin and all that. There's none of that. He doesn't know them. So Baros was called to Karen's parents' house on January 29th. This is when Proctor and Buchanan were going to seize her vehicle. It's outside of their jurisdiction, so they have to call like a local cop to be there as well. So when he arrived at the house, former Trooper Proctor was already there inside. And Baros needed to go inside briefly to kind of figure out a plan for getting the SUV on the tow truck, because he said there was like already a foot of snow in the driveway. Now, Baros testified that he took note of Karen's taillight that day.
This is the afternoon of January 29th, 2022, correct?
Correct.
Before the vehicle had been seized formally by Trooper Proctor and Sergeant Buchanan, correct?
Correct.
Did you observe anything of note about the rear end of that black SUV?
Yes, I noted in a report that there was damage to the taillight.
Can you describe for the juror, by the way, which taillight are we talking about?
The right rear taillight.
Can you describe for the jurors what you noted in terms of the damage to the right rear taillight?
I noted that the report said that there was right rear damage to that taillight.
When you say damage, have you ever described that damage previously?
I have.
Can you tell us what that
Yep.
description is?
There was, it was damaged, the taillight was damaged, but there was a crack missing, but it was not completely damaged.
When you say there was a crack, do you mean there was a piece missing?
A piece was missing.
So he's saying that Karen's taillight was cracked. And look, this has been his story from the very beginning. His very first report, he put in there that it was like cracked and not completely shattered, like cracked and missing a piece, but not completely shattered. So AJ shows a picture of the taillight when it was at the Sally Port, and Baros said, nope, that's not what I saw at Bill Reed's house. But not only that, listen to how he describes it.
Sergeant Baros, is this the condition of the right rear taillight when you showed up at the Reed household at around 3:15 in the afternoon on January 29th, 2022?
Absolutely not.
What's different about this photo, sir?
That taillight is completely smashed out.
Now, this is huge for the defense. This is huge. And AJ also shows a video of the car going up onto the tow truck, and you can see that the taillight is much more intact than what the Commonwealth has shown. On cross, Brennan asked about Baros meeting with AJ prior to his testimony. And y'all, Jackson objects to this. And look at what happened.
The face-to-face meeting, what did you talk about?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
Over here. What did you talk about?
Excuse me.
So that, okay?
Over here.
Brennan literally said, over here, like calling him like he's a dog. I was floored by this. That is so incredibly rude. And I even had to rewind it and make sure that I heard that right. I thought there's no way that that's actually what just happened. And one of the reporters in the room said that when she saw it, she said she audibly gasped because of how crazy rude it was. It is shocking to me. Now, Brennan tried to pick some holes in Baros' memory, but he does admit that he has some parts of his memory that have faded, like what he testified to at the last trial, for example. He had thought that they showed him the picture during the last trial, but they didn't. So Brennan tried to equate that to Baros not having good enough memory to rely on when it comes to the taillight. But Baros insisted. He was like, look, I know what I saw. Brennan also tried to criticize Baros for not giving more details in his report. Like, are you new here? Like, the reports from the officers involved in this case are the messiest that I've ever seen. They often change and or contradict each other, and that's if they even exist at all. But even with that cross, I don't think that it can undo the damage that was done by that comment. Could Baros have really just completely blown up the prosecution's case? Let me know what y'all think in comments. Now, Baros is off the stand, and we will hear from someone new in the morning. Who do you think it'll be? They said today that we have Lucky Laughlin, the snowplow driver, and we have Mrs. Kolakithis, who was a friend that was at the waterfall that night. So we know we're going to hear from them soon. Who else do you think we're going to hear from? Who do you think is going to be first? Let me know. That's a wrap for today. For a full breakdown of everything, make sure to check out 13th Juror Podcast. And Bev let us know that tomorrow will be a half day. So we will see y'all bright and early, 9 a.m. right here on Crime Junkie Jury.